January 8, 1967. War Zone C, Tai Ninh Province. Specialist 4 James Thompson crouched in elephant grass, so tall it blocked out the sky. The heat at 1100 hours was suffocating. 112 degrees with humidity that made every breath feel like drowning. His M16 was slick with sweat. Around him, 80 men from Charlie Company, 1st Battalion, 26th Infantry Regiment, moved in a loose formation through the jungle, searching. "Keep your intervals," Lieutenant Morrison whispered into the radio. "Charlie's out here somewhere." Thompson had been in country for 6 months. He understood the mission. Find the enemy, fix them in place, call in artillery and air support, destroy them. Simple, effective. That's what they said at Fort Benning. The body count from last month's operations proved it worked. 549 confirmed kills for just 73 American KIA. The math was beautiful. Do this enough times, and the Viet Cong would simply run out of men. What Thompson didn't know, what nobody in Charlie Company understood yet, was that they were part of an experiment. Search and destroy operations represented the most sophisticated application of industrial warfare principles to counterinsurgency in human history. It was also doomed. The radio crackled. "Contact front! Contact!" The jungle exploded. In the next 47 minutes, Charlie Company would kill 23 Viet Cong fighters. They would call in 3 artillery missions and 2 gunship runs. By sunset, they'd report a significant tactical victory. By midnight, the VC would reoccupy the exact same positions. By the end of the war, Thompson would realize that he just participated in a military strategy so fundamentally flawed that it helped America lose the only war it had ever failed to win. When General William Westmoreland arrived in Saigon in June 1964 to command Military Assistance Command Vietnam, he brought with him an unshakable faith in American military doctrine. He'd served in World War II and Korea. He understood how wars were won. Mass your forces, find the enemy, destroy him with overwhelming firepower. The numbers would do the rest. The solution in Vietnam is more bombs, more shells, more napalm, Westmoreland told his staff in early 1965. "We're going to pound them with artillery, airstrikes, and sheer volume of fire until they break." The logic was seductive. The United States possessed unlimited firepower. The North Vietnamese and Viet Cong had manpower but limited resources. Therefore, the strategy was obvious. Establish a favorable kill ratio and maintain it until the enemy's will collapsed. Simple mathematics. Beautiful in its clarity. Defense Secretary Robert McNamara, the ultimate systems analyst, loved it. "Every quantitative measurement we have shows we're winning," he told President Johnson in November 1965. A former Ford Motor Company executive, McNamara viewed warfare as a production problem. You input resources, output dead enemies, measure efficiency through body counts. The crossover point, when you killed them faster than they could replace losses, was inevitable. Pentagon planners projected it would take 18 to 24 months. Initial field reports seemed to confirm the theory's validity. Operation Starlight in August 1965 killed 614 VC for 45 Marine casualties. Operation Silver Bayonet in the Ia Drang Valley that November produced a 12.1 kill ratio. The numbers looked tremendous on paper. "We're fighting a war of attrition," Westmoreland explained to reporters. "The only alternative is a war of annihilation. I'm trying to kill them faster than they can be replaced." What the general didn't yet understand was that his North Vietnamese counterpart, General Vo Nguyen Giap, had already done the math and reached a very different conclusion. "We don't have to win," Giap told his commanders. "We just have to not lose. And we can lose 10 times as many soldiers as the Americans and still outlast them." The cultural assumptions embedded in search and destroy doctrine reflected pure American thinking, that warfare was rational, that casualties mattered more than political will, that the side with superior technology and firepower would inevitably prevail. These assumptions had worked against Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. They would prove catastrophic against an enemy fighting a revolutionary war for national liberation. Colonel Harry Summers, a military strategist, would later observe, "We confused military tactics with strategic success. We thought winning battles meant winning the war. We were wrong." The intellectual foundation for search and destroy operations began not in Saigon, but in Washington, where the Kennedy administration's flexible response doctrine sought to apply military force precisely across the spectrum of conflict. Instead of massive retaliation, America would master counterinsurgency. Instead of nuclear weapons, we deploy special forces and helicopters and sophisticated firepower to defeat communist insurgencies. Robert Comer, who would later run the pacification program, captured the era's optimism. "We have tremendous assets, mobility, firepower, technology. The question isn't whether we can win, but how quickly." When Johnson escalated American involvement in 1965, Westmoreland inherited 23,000 advisors and a defensive mission. By December, he commanded 184,000 combat troops with offensive authority. The transformation happened in months. The doctrine that emerged, search and destroy, represented his answer to a fundamental question. How do you find and kill an enemy who won't stand and fight? The solution combined three revolutionary elements. First, helicopter mobility. The 1st Cavalry Division, Airmobile, could insert entire battalions anywhere within hours. Second, overwhelming firepower. American forces could call down artillery, gunships, fighter bombers, and B-52 strikes within minutes. Third, sophisticated intelligence, electronic sensors, infrared detection, communications intercepts, and a massive South Vietnamese informant network. Training began at Fort Benning, Fort Polk, and Fort Bragg, where entire mock Vietnamese villages taught soldiers to clear hamlets and conduct population control operations. The Army created the 11th Light Infantry Brigade specifically for search and destroy missions. Marine Corps doctrine emphasized county fairs, massive sweeps through populated areas to separate VC from civilians. "We're going to find them, fix them, fight them, and finish them," became the mantra. The acronym, the 4 Fs, appeared in every briefing, every operations order, every unit indoctrination. Early operations in 1965 seemed to validate the concept. Operation Starlight near Chulai demonstrated the model perfectly. Intelligence detected a VC regiment. Marines helicoptered in, encircled the enemy, called in naval gunfire and airstrikes, and killed 614 VC while suffering 45 KR. The formula worked. By early 1966, search and destroy operations consumed 70% of all American ground combat effort. Major operations bore dramatic names: Masher, White Wing, Birmingham, Hastings. Each followed the same pattern. Intelligence identified enemy concentrations. American units swept through. Fighting erupted. Massive firepower was applied. Body counts were tallied. Units withdrew. Lieutenant Philip Caputo, who served in one of the 1st Marine battalions to conduct search and destroy operations, later wrote, "We believed we could win through sheer killing power. Find them, kill them, count them. The side that killed more of the other side's soldiers would win." It seemed obvious. But warning signs appeared early. Lieutenant Colonel John Paul Vann, a legendary advisor, wrote scathing reports about operations where American units killed impressive numbers of VC, then watched them return within days. "We claim victory, count bodies, and leave," Vann noted in January 1966. "They wait until we're gone, then reoccupy. We're not taking territory. We're not protecting population. We're just killing people and hoping that matters. Westmoreland dismissed such concerns. The crossover point was coming. The math was inexorable. They just needed to kill more VC, faster. January 8, 1967. Operation Cedar Falls. The Iron Triangle, a 60-square-mile area northwest of Saigon, had been VC territory since the French War. Westmoreland committed 30,000 American and South Vietnamese troops to the largest operation of the war to date. The plan was brilliant in its ambition. Seal off the entire area, destroy the enemy infrastructure, evacuate the population, level the villages, and turn the region into a free fire zone. Search and destroy operations on an industrial scale. Specialist Dennis Stout watched engineers place demolition charges under a village called Ben Suk. They told us we were liberating these people, he recalled. But the people were crying, begging us not to destroy their homes. That's when I first wondered what we were doing. The operation statistics looked magnificent. In 18 days, American forces killed 750 VC, captured 280 prisoners, seized 540 tons of rice, destroyed 106 bunkers and 525 tunnels. Engineers literally flattened entire villages with Rome plows, massive bulldozers that could clear 1,000 acres per day. Westmoreland declared it a turning point. But Sergeant Arnold Gutierrez, whose platoon spent 3 days in the tunnels beneath Cu Chi, saw the reality. These tunnels went on forever. Schools, hospitals, weapons factories, all underground. We'd blow up one section and they'd just dig around it. You couldn't destroy this with conventional operations. 6 weeks after Cedar Falls ended, VC forces reoccupied the Iron Triangle. February-May 1967. Operation Junction City. Westmoreland doubled down. Junction City would be even larger. 34 battalions, 25,000 men, designed to trap and annihilate COSVN, the communist headquarters for all of South Vietnam. The operation included the only combat parachute jump of the war and the most intensive bombing campaign yet attempted. Captain James Warfield led a company from the 1st Infantry Division on February 22nd. We were supposed to find COSVN headquarters, this massive complex they claimed coordinated everything. We searched for 3 weeks, never found it. Just lots of empty jungle and occasional contact. The operation killed 2,728 enemy soldiers. American forces captured impressive caches of weapons and supplies. But COSVN melted away before the assault even began. Communist commanders simply withdrew across the Cambodian border, 40 miles away, waited out the American sweep, then returned. Captured VC documents revealed the strategy with devastating clarity. Do not engage American units directly unless certain of victory, read one directive. Withdraw when they advance. Return when they leave. Their firepower is overwhelming, but their patience is limited. Nguyen Van Thieu, a former VC battalion commander, explained it years later. We understood that American soldiers were counting days until they went home. They measured success in body counts. We measured success in survival. If we survived, we won. Every American soldier killed was a small victory. Every American operation that failed to hold territory was a larger victory. Time was our weapon, not tanks or aircraft. The moment of recognition came slowly, then all at once. Lieutenant Colonel John Hayes commanded a battalion that participated in both Cedar Falls and Junction City. After Junction City, I realized we were running in circles. We'd search an area, find some VC, kill them, leave, and come back 2 months later to search the same area again. We weren't securing anything. We were just making the rubble bounce. By summer 1967, even Westmoreland's own staff had doubts. Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Ladd, a senior intelligence officer, wrote a classified assessment. Current operations are producing tactical victories without strategic gains. We are winning engagements while losing the war. The enemy accepts casualties we consider catastrophic, then reconstitutes and continues fighting. The statistics themselves revealed the paradox. From January through August 1967, American forces killed an estimated 88,000 enemy soldiers. North Vietnam's infiltration rate during the same period, 90,000 replacements. Despite enormous casualties, enemy force levels were increasing. By late 1967, both sides had refined their approaches to search and destroy warfare into sophisticated systems. American tactical evolution focused on maximizing firepower while minimizing exposure. Fire-based strategy emerged, fortified artillery positions that could support operations within a 15-kilometer radius. Fire support base locations like Bastogne, Berchtesgaden, and Birmingham dotted the map, each surrounded by wire, mines, and artillery pieces firing 24 hours daily. Reconnaissance by fire became standard. Artillery would pound suspected enemy positions before infantry arrived. Free fire zones designated entire regions where anything moving could be engaged. B-52 strikes created saturation bombing, 3 plane missions that could obliterate a square kilometer of jungle. Staff Sergeant David Christian described the evolution. By 68, we weren't searching anymore. We were provoking. Make noise, attract enemy fire, withdraw, call in airstrikes. Let the bombs do the work. Safer for us, deadly for them. The technology grew increasingly sophisticated. People sniffers, electronic sensors that detected ammonia from human urine, were scattered by helicopter across suspected enemy zones. Starlight scopes turned night into day. M16s with 30-round magazines replaced M14s. Massive M113 armored personnel carriers provided mobility through paddy fields. Psychological operations intensified. Leaflet drops promised amnesty. Loudspeakers blared propaganda. Captured VC were turned and sent back as Kit Carson scouts. Village pacification programs aimed to drain the sea in which Mao had taught guerrillas to swim. But for every American adaptation, the VC and NVA had counters. Tunnel systems reached extraordinary sophistication. The Cu Chi complex alone covered 250 kilometers of underground passages with hospitals, classrooms, sleeping quarters, and weapons factories, all 30 feet below ground, beyond the reach of most bombs. Trapdoors were booby-trapped. False tunnels led to dead ends. The entire network could support 10,000 fighters indefinitely. Pham Van Phuc, an NVA logistics officer, explained the Vietnamese evolution. We learned to embrace American firepower. When they called B-52 strikes, we withdrew to shelters and waited. The bombs destroyed jungle cover, which helped them, but created craters we used for fighting positions. We adapted to everything. Hugging tactics emerged as the Vietnamese term for fighting at such close quarters that American artillery and air power couldn't be used without hitting their own troops. Grab the Americans by their belt became the tactical instruction. Get close, fight viciously for 15 to 20 minutes, then disengage before reinforcements arrived. Intelligence networks proved even more valuable than tunnels. Every American base had Vietnamese workers, barbers, laundry staff, bar girls, and many reported troop movements to local VC cadres. Attacks frequently came hours after plans were discussed with South Vietnamese counterparts. Specialist Robert Santos recalled the frustration. We'd plan an operation, get up at 400, helicopter out to some grid coordinate, and find absolutely nothing. They knew we were coming, every single time. The psychological toll mounted for American soldiers. Captain Robert Mason described the alienation. You'd sweep an area, take casualties getting into a village, search everywhere, maybe kill some VC, then leave. A week later, you'd be back doing the same thing. Nothing ever seemed to change. Marijuana use exploded. Racial tensions intensified. Fragging, soldiers deliberately killing unpopular officers, became common enough to warrant its own terminology. Veteran morale plummeted as soldiers questioned what they were accomplishing. Meanwhile, North Vietnamese morale remained remarkably resilient despite horrific casualties. Dr. Duong Quinh Hoa, who worked in VC hospitals, explained, "We knew many would die, but we believed our cause was just, liberating our country from foreign domination. That belief sustained us through any level of casualties." By late 1967, search and destroy operations achieved their maximum tactical efficiency and simultaneously revealed their complete strategic bankruptcy. The statistics from September-December 1967 tell one story. 40,000 estimated enemy KIA against 6,500 American casualties, a 6.1 kill ratio. Operations like MacArthur, Pershing, and Yellowstone demonstrated textbook execution, intelligence, mobility, overwhelming firepower, meticulous body counts. American soldiers had become extraordinarily proficient at finding and killing enemy forces. Captain Roger Donlin, a Special Forces officer, described the brutal effectiveness. "We could bring more ordnance down on a single grid square than entire divisions could in World War II. The enemy faced firepower they couldn't match or survive. When we found them, we destroyed them." Captured NVA documents from late 1967 acknowledged the toll. One report admitted losses were approaching unsustainable levels, and that American firepower had exceeded all expectations. Another noted that some battalions had been reduced to 30% strength. Yet enemy forces kept coming. January 30th, 1968. Tet Offensive. The ultimate refutation of search and destroy doctrine came during the Lunar New Year. Despite the enormous casualties inflicted throughout 1967, NVA and VC forces launched simultaneous attacks on 36 of 44 provincial capitals, 64 district capitals, 5 major cities, and dozens of American bases. 80,000 communist troops participated, a number that should have been impossible given the body counts from the previous year. Sergeant Ron Kovich was in Hue when the offensive began. "We thought we were winning. Westmoreland kept saying we'd reached the crossover point, that the enemy was nearly finished. Then they attacked everywhere at once. I realized then that everything we'd been told was a lie." The tactical outcome was catastrophic for the communists. They lost 58,000 killed, failed to hold any major objectives, and their plan for a general uprising never materialized. By every search and destroy metric, Tet was an overwhelming American victory. But Tet destroyed the strategy's credibility. If the enemy was nearly defeated, as body count suggested, how could they mount such an offensive? If we were winning, as the statistics proved, why didn't it feel like winning? Walter Cronkite's February 27th broadcast captured the American realization. To say that we are mired in stalemate seems the only realistic, if unsatisfactory, conclusion. President Johnson, watching the broadcast, told aides, "If I've lost Cronkite, I've lost Middle America." The numbers that had seemed so compelling, the body counts, the kill ratios, the crossover points, suddenly looked meaningless. General Creighton Abrams, who replaced Westmoreland in June 1968, quietly began shifting away from search and destroy toward clear and hold operations focused on population security rather than enemy casualties. But the damage was irreversible. The American public had lost faith. Domestic opposition exploded. Draft resistance spread. The military itself began fragmenting as soldiers questioned their mission. Specialist Michael Clodfelter, who fought in multiple search and destroy operations, captured the bitter realization: we won every battle. I was there for dozens of engagements, and we always won. Always. But somehow we were losing the war. That's when I understood that winning battles doesn't matter if you're fighting the wrong kind of war. The fundamental error had been assuming that industrial warfare principles, mass firepower, attrition, could defeat a revolutionary insurgency with limitless patience, infinite resilience, and a willingness to accept casualties that American society would never tolerate. Search and destroy operations killed an estimated 900,000 NVA and VC soldiers between 1965 and 1972. American forces won virtually every major engagement. The kill ratios were extraordinary, often 10-1 or higher. By every military metric developed in the 20th century, the United States should have won. Instead, America withdrew in 1973, and Saigon fell in 1975. The strategy's failure wasn't tactical, but philosophical. It asked the wrong question: how many can we kill? Instead of, what are we trying to achieve? It confused enemy casualties with strategic progress. It assumed rational calculation would overcome revolutionary commitment. General William Dupuy, who helped design search and destroy doctrine, admitted years later, "We expected them to behave like the Wehrmacht, to break when casualties reached certain levels. They didn't. We never understood that we were fighting people who had been resisting foreign domination for 1,000 years. The lessons influenced every subsequent American conflict. In Iraq and Afghanistan, commanders emphasized population security over body counts, clear and hold over search and destroy, building institutions over defeating enemies. The phrase itself, search and destroy, became military shorthand for strategic failure. Nguyen Cao Ky, former South Vietnamese air marshal, offered perhaps the most devastating assessment. The Americans brought everything: helicopters, bombs, the most modern weapons. But they never understood that we weren't fighting a conventional war. We were fighting for our country. You can't measure that in body counts. Today, when military historians study Vietnam, they inevitably conclude that search and destroy operations represented a catastrophic misapplication of American strengths: mobility, technology, firepower, to a conflict that required patience, cultural understanding, and political solutions rather than military dominance. Back in War Zone C on January 8, 1967, Specialist James Thompson didn't know any of this. He just knew the jungle was exploding around him, and somewhere in that green hell were men trying to kill him. He'd survived this contact, and dozens more. He'd go home in 1969 with a Bronze Star and nightmares that never stopped. 40 years later, he'd say, "We thought we were winning because we kept killing them. We never understood that they'd already decided dying was acceptable. We were playing a game where the scoreboard didn't matter, and nobody told us until it was too late."